But yeah, he needs more snaps. That's all he needs. And what better way than to play a game that doesn't matter against a team that doesn't matter and get some reps in? I think he's going to develop really, really well. He's going to be a great replacement for Jimmy G one of these days.
You seem pretty confident in those facts that you're spewing. Welcome to the Jungle, Bengals fans. I'm Kyle Phelps, and sometimes I wonder who I must have hurt in a past life to make me come back as a Bengals fan. Hey, at least this year has been more fun than the last few. I know the Bengals lost in fairly infuriating fashion against the Los Angeles Chargers last week, but they're going to get a chance to right the ship this week with the San Francisco 49ers coming to town to complete a Bengals 3-game home stretch. Now, historically, the 49ers have pretty much dominated the Bengals. The Bengals won their first matchup with the 49ers 21-3 in 1974. So at that point, you're thinking, oh, hey, this will be a fun little matchup, an interconference type matchup between these two teams going forward. It's going to be interesting going forward, right? Right? No, it was awful after that. The Bengals lost their next 9 games to the 49ers, including their only 2 Super Bowl wins in the 1981 and 1988 seasons. And they didn't get their second win against them until 1999. I remember that game, actually. The Bengals had been a joke for my entire life to that point. I was born in 1992, which was the year that we fired Sam Weish and drafted David Klingler. I mean, it was really bad at that point. Like, I'd literally known nothing but the Bengals just being crap forever at that point. And then we beat the 49ers, and it was like the Bengals, it was the closest thing I'd ever gotten to the Bengals being relevant. So it was kind of like our Super Bowl at that point. And since then, things have been a little bit more even. Although, the last time these two teams played was in 2019, which was Zach Taylor's first year, and we all remember the way the Bengals were in Zach Taylor's first year. The Bengals got blown out to the 49ers at home, 41-17. Those were dark times indeed. So yeah, the 49ers lead the series right now 12-4, which is a little embarrassing. But none of that matters to this Bengals team. Really, only a handful of players like Jesse Bates, Sam Hubbard, Joe Mixon, and a few special teamers and a couple other guys were even around for that 41-17 blowout just 2 years ago. It's a new day in Cincinnati, and they've been acting like it all year. So, yes, like I said in last week's preview, this is meaningful December football. Man, that feels so good to say after 2 years of complete irrelevance. Now, the Bengals lost last week's game, so it would be nice for them to actually be able to get a meaningful December win. The Bengals currently control the AFC's number 6 seed after getting some help from the Patriots last week. They also got some help from the Steelers. As much as I'd rather eat my own hat than admit that the Steelers did something good, their victory over the Ravens did keep the Bengals only 1 game behind the division race with a game left to play against the Ravens. So that was nice. But now they need to take advantage of that gift by keeping pace with the Ravens until they go head-to-head with them again in 2 weeks. That starts this week against the 49ers. Both of these teams are actually in a really similar position this week, albeit for pretty different reasons. Both teams are currently desperately holding on to a wild card seed in their respective conferences. However, for the 49ers, it's mostly because of a recently strong run of form. They've gone 4-2 over their last 6 weeks to turn around a season that was starting to look lost. The Bengals, on the other hand, are trying to keep their playoff hopes alive after setting themselves up with a strong 5-2 start, and since then they've been really inconsistent and they've gone 2-3. Both teams really need a win this week to stay in control of a playoff seed. A loss for either team wouldn't necessarily be the end of the road, but it would definitely make things way more difficult than they need to be. So, what does a victory look like for the Bengals? They're going to need to play an efficient game and cut out all the damn turnovers. Seriously, the turnovers have actually been a pretty solid predictor of overall success this year. Save for that weird blowout win over the Ravens where they were actually -1 in the turnover differential. The Bengals have had at least an even split in the turnover margin in each of their victories. In all but one loss, which was the Jets game where they actually had a +2 turnover margin, they've actually had a negative turnover differential. It seems like an obvious thing to say, right? It's like, oh gee, you think that handing the ball off to the other team is bad? Oh, never would have guessed that. But for the Bengals, so many of their losses have been defined this year by just not being careful with the ball. The Bengals actually have the 8th most giveaways in the NFL this season with 20. So, you do the math. You tell me what would change if they just take care of the damn ball. Luckily, the 49ers have been giving the ball away almost as much as the Bengals this year. Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't been throwing the ball to the other team as much as Joe Burrow, who actually leads the league with 14 interceptions. But the 49ers have fumbled the ball away 14 times this year. Actually, Jimmy Garoppolo is the worst culprit of fumbles on the team this year with 5. So this is a game where both teams might want to focus on turnovers in their preparation leading up to this week. The ability to control those turnovers could end up being a deciding factor for this game. There's a lot more to this 49ers team than that, though. So to help us preview this game, we've got a new correspondent on the show. His name's Colin, and he's been a 49ers fan out there in San Francisco for his entire life. Say what's up, Colin.
Hey, Bengals fans. Glad to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah, man. So glad that you were able to join the show with us today and kind of help us get to know the enemy, as it were. So first of all, why don't you go ahead and tell us how it was for you growing up in San Francisco and how you came to become a 49ers fan?
So I became a 49ers fan when my dads were like, hey, let's watch football, son. You should watch all these Joe Montana highlights and Steve Young highlights. And I was just really into it. I thought Jerry Rice was the best player I'd ever seen. And we won the Super Bowls against you guys. It was just great. And I've loved the 49ers ever since. Oh, man, how lucky it would be to be in the 80s before racism just destroyed my beloved state of California. But now I love the 49ers. I love watching them play. And, well, I have a love-hate relationship with them right now because they go to Super Bowls and lose. So, but, yep, they're my team. I love, I have a Jerry Rice jersey hanging up in my room somewhere, and he's probably my favorite player of all time.
I absolutely cannot get behind the Jerry Rice thing, man. Not after the 215 yards and the game-tying touchdown that he had against the Bengals in Super Bowl 23. I don't even really want to think about it, honestly. But today, we're here to talk about the Bengals-49ers matchup in 2021. So, like I said in the intro, the 49ers are going into this game fighting for a chance at the playoffs, much like the Bengals. What do you think is the best area for the Bengals to attack this week to try to come away with a win?
How can the Bengals win? Well, they can throw it to Josh Norman because he won't defend any passes. He hasn't defended any passes this year. 1 interception, big deal. How about 5 more? We can't cover any short passes. Our safeties are good, except for last week because we always lose to the fucking Seahawks.
That's right. The Seahawks held your rushing offense to 66 yards last week, despite the 49ers overall this season actually ranking number 1 in the NFL in rushing yards. So, do you think that that's something to worry about this week, going up against the Bengals rushing defense that ranks top 10 in rushing yards allowed, yards per carry, rushing first downs allowed, rushing touchdowns allowed, pretty much every single major rushing defense category?
Well, again, up until last week against the Seahawks, no, it hasn't been something to worry about. But whenever we face a decent defensive line, like I guess the one you guys have, Trey Hendrickson's pretty good. Gonna have to worry about him. But I'm excited to see JaMychal Hasty since we're not going to have Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell's injured, I think, so we're going to be missing our best running back. No, we're going to have to pass the ball against your garbage cornerbacks, which I should be very excited about. Jimmy G's pretty mediocre, but he's going to look like, like the Jets quarterback did when he played you guys.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, really. First of all, I don't know about our cornerbacks being garbage. Cheeto Awuzie has been a godsend all season and is actually ranked number 11 in the NFL in PFF's pass coverage grade, which is at a 79. And Eli Apple has really turned things around the last few weeks. In fact, PFF hasn't graded him below a 70, period, since the bye week. It would probably be nice if Trey Waynes was playing, but what are you going to do about that? And then second of all, since you seem to be in the mood to talk shit, why don't you tell me what happened last week against the Seahawks? Did you guys lose your 4th game in a row against them and your 17th in the last 20 matchups, or was I hallucinating?
That game is just another example of why we have to move on from Jimmy G. As sculpted as his jawline, his perfect little jawline is, he can't throw a ball. The decision-making is awful, and it's another reason why we've got to develop our boy Trey Lance into an actually good football player. If we can't get Trey Lance to develop, I don't know what this team is going to do. Our defense kept getting cooked. Josh Norman got cooked on a huge pass again. I don't know what we're going to do. And it doesn't matter. We always lose to the fucking Seahawks. I guess they're your Steelers, even though you've been beating the Steelers. It's not fun being a 49ers fan right now. It used to be. It used to be. But if we're losing to the fucking Seahawks every fucking time. So hopefully Trey Lance will get some snaps against your garbage defensive back so that he can develop into a pretty good quarterback for us for the future.
Whatever, man. You'll see what I'm talking about on Sunday. But you do bring a good point up about Trey Lance getting playing time. Why exactly hasn't he been getting playing time lately? It seemed like they were pretty keen on working him in for some snaps here and there early in the season, but after week 5, he's only made one appearance on like a few rushing plays in week 11 against the Jaguars. He wasn't getting playing time there for a while, and he hasn't really since.
Well, he's probably not being played because he sucked ass against Arizona. But he needs more snaps. That's all he needs. And what better way than to play a game that doesn't matter against a team that doesn't matter and get some reps in. I think he's going to develop really, really well. He's going to be a great replacement for Jimmy G one of these days.
You seem pretty confident in those facts that you're spewing. But what happens if the 49ers don't win? You seem to think that this game doesn't matter, but I have a hard time seeing the 49ers making the playoffs if they don't win out. What does that say about Kyle Shanahan's regime in San Francisco if they put up yet another losing season? It'd be his 4th season in 5 years with a losing record. And I know they had that 13-3 season in 2019, but what happens if that turns out to be an anomaly?
Well, Kyle, I'd sure like to see Kyle Shanahan's bitch ass get out of the coaching seat. Poor clock management in the Super Bowl. If you're such an offensive mastermind, why didn't you score any points in the 4th quarter of the fucking Super Bowl? But, yeah, I don't know if this is a must-win. It's not really a conference game. But if we lose, I'm probably going to call for him to be fired anyway. We need to win a playoff game, or I'm not going to root for the 49ers anymore. I'll probably root for the 49ers. Better than some patriarchal capitalist pigs from LA.
Well, that's certainly a good place to end things, I think. I don't know about you, but I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens in this game, Colin.
Oh, definitely, Kyle. I think the Nick Bosa with his 12 sacks this year, he's probably going to end this game with 16 sacks. Your Bengals offensive line is terrible. And I have to say, it's going to be a great game to watch, being a 49ers fan. I mean, as usual, games between us go pretty well.
Yeah, the 49ers are 12-4 against the Bengals all time. I can't lie about that one, but I appreciate you coming on, Colin, and we'll catch you again next time. So that's pretty much going to do it for this week's 49ers preview, guys. Biggest keys to this game for the Bengals, I think, are stopping their rushing attack, being patient on offense, and generally trying to clean up some of those killer mistakes that they've been dealing with. I'm predicting that the Bengals take this one by a score of 31-24. What do you think, guys? Let me know what you think, and let me know your score predictions or any other takeaways you have from this video in the comments down below, and I'll make sure to feature the best ones on my next preview video. Until then, you can always find me at KylePhelps92 on Twitter, Facebook.com/ThePhelps, ATBNetwork.com/Cincinnati Bengals, the Battle of Ohio podcast, which is available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, and right here if you subscribe. You'll definitely want to do that because we do these previews every Friday. We do recaps on Mondays. I do power rankings on Tuesdays, and I post podcast clips every Wednesday and Saturday. Also, I do live play-by-play and commentary on every Bengals road game. So hopefully I'll catch y'all then, and for now, I'll leave y'all with a hooday!